Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are so thrilled to have you here at our final session of the Solo Summit. I'm Gabrielle, and I'm so grateful to you all for joining us for an incredible 2 days of sessions. We've explored everything from building your brand to optimizing your taxes, from crafting client relationships to leveraging AI. And of course, we hope you've discovered how Lettuce can help you keep more of what you earn with our automated tax and finance solution. For our closing keynote, we have an incredible speaker who's going to help us understand where independent work is headed. As Senior Research Manager at Upwork, Dr. Gabby Burlaku is at the forefront of studying how organizations are adapting their cultures and talent practices in our rapidly evolving world of work. Her research has been featured in peer-reviewed studies, articles, and books, and has directly influenced how Fortune 500 companies think about and engage with independent talent and how products like Upwork are built. With a PhD in industrial organizational psychology, she brings both academic rigor and practical insights to help us understand not just where work is heading, but how we can position ourselves as solos to thrive in this new landscape. Please join me in welcoming our closing keynote speaker, Dr. Gabby Burlaku.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle, and thanks so much to all of you for joining me today. My name is Dr. Gabby Burlaku. I'm the Senior Research Manager of the Upwork Research Institute. I hope you've had a wonderful solo summit, and I am here today to close us out and talk about the new workforce and share why freelancing is the future of work, according to our research. If you haven't heard of the Upwork Research Institute before, I'm hoping that after today, you'll follow our work. We are a team of economists and psychologists, and we're committed to studying the future of work, essentially, understanding shifts in how work is done and demystifying what's coming next. And we do this to help non-traditional workers like you really understand what's coming and understand where the opportunities might lie. And we also do this to help business leaders really understand and navigate and think differently about how they might manage people and organizations better, given that the future of work is changing rapidly. And the truth is that business leaders need this help. The world around organizations is changing like never before, and it's a very pivotal and kind of a difficult time to be a business leader. The traditional 9-to-5 work model that used to be the gold standard of stability and job security is quickly revealing itself not to be that, right? It's getting shakier and shakier for people. AI has hit the scene, and it's been this rapid whirlwind, but it's really got business leaders at a crossroads. How are we going to leverage AI? Should we leverage AI? What are the data privacy risks? Are we going to fall behind competitors? These are all the kinds of questions swirling around for business leaders. And so in this environment of just constant change, we try to understand how our business is going to respond. And here's what we're learning from our survey data, that essentially businesses by and large are going to play it very safe during this turbulent time. We find that 30% of organizations are going to spend 2025 in a strategy of maintenance. They're just going to try to maintain their current business operations as well as they can. An additional 17% are saying, we're just going to focus on cutting costs. We're going to try to improve efficiency and see what happens. 10% say, you know what, we're just going to respond to what comes at us. We're not even sure what that is yet, but we're just going to react as we can. Relatively fewer organizations are saying, you know what, we're going to try something new. We're going to meet this moment with innovation and risk-taking, and we're really going to leverage this opportunity to do things super differently. But there are some companies that are saying that they want to do that. And so we really seek to understand at the Upwork Research Institute, who are these companies and what differentiates them? And we call these our work innovators. Work innovators are companies that apply that same relentless innovation that you might expect when it comes to product development or client engagement to how work is actually done at their company. They design work in a way that is innovative, that breaks beyond that traditional 9-to-5 mold and really enables them to unlock value and potential across their business. What's really interesting about Work Innovators is that they have a very unique way of looking at freelance talent. 92% of Work Innovators say, I don't care where this talent comes from. I don't care if they're full-time or freelancer or something in between. If you're the best in what you do, we want to work with you. And so they view that as much more important than, say, some of their peers. They really want to work with people who are highly skilled, regardless of whether they're full-time or freelance. When they think about the value of freelancers, Work Innovators tend to orient more around the fact that leveraging freelancers helps them access really specialized skill sets, which helps them unlock innovation in their business. They're more oriented around these outcomes than, say, freelance talent is easier to find, or it's cheaper, or it's more efficient. They believe in those, outcomes as well, but that's not what they're really building their strategy around. So they're really looking more strategically at how freelancers can play a role in unlocking innovation for their companies. Work Innovators are definitely onto something when it comes to freelancers, because the talent pool of people who freelance is massive, and organizations that are not leveraging this talent pool are definitely getting left behind. In 2023, 38% of US workers freelanced in some way. And you might be thinking 2023, now we're in 2025. I will share with people on this call a stat for the first time, because it's in research that we'll be launching in April. But right now, what we're finding is that among skilled knowledge workers in the United States, 1 in 4 is a freelancer. 1 in 4 knowledge workers are working non-traditionally outside that traditional 9-to-5 work model today. I certainly don't need to sell the people on this call this concept, but I hope it's clear that what we mean by freelancing goes beyond just that gig work that people might think of when they think of freelancing. So certainly freelancing can encompass things like selling goods on Etsy or driving for Uber. But what we're finding more and more is that skilled knowledge workers are freelancing and working non-traditionally to build and shape entire careers in this way. So the portfolio careerist mode of freelancing is one that we particularly follow. We're seeing a pretty big emergence of this on our platform. These are people that manage a portfolio of work across different clients, different kinds of projects. They're applying their skill sets in all these different ways, and it's allowing them to pursue more meaningful work that they find interesting and also gain control over their career growth. So they're seeing kind of more of a control while also being able to work at the level that they would in a traditional 9-to-5 setting. This has never been more possible, of course, and we're seeing this rise on our platform partly because the technology allows for it, but also partly because organizations are in desperate need of your skill sets. So let's talk about those skill sets. If there is one piece of advice that I can leave freelancers with based on everything that we're seeing in our research, it's to get comfortable with, familiar with, and articulate how you work alongside AI-enabled tools. This doesn't have to be super complex, but the fact of the matter is AI is on the mind of business leaders today. It is a huge skill gap for business leaders, one that they're increasingly filling with freelance talent. Our research shows that 1 in 2 freelancers report being at least somewhat skilled in using AI professionally. About 1 in 3 are using AI tools with regularity as part of their work. And for this reason, we see C-level executives starting to shift their thinking about freelance talent and what freelancers can do. 48% of C-level executives say they've brought freelancers in the past 12 months specifically to execute on delayed AI projects. So these are projects that got stuck somewhere in the works in the traditional 9-to-5 structure, and they found that bringing freelancers in has helped them actually get unstuck and helped them push these projects forward. I should clarify, AI projects does not necessarily mean that you have to know how to build an AI tool or train a machine learning model, but this can also mean that you're applying AI tools towards solving organizational challenges within functions like marketing, like operations, like HR. It's not about necessarily building the AI tools, but applying them towards solving challenges. That's what organizations really, really need right now. So AI might be a foot in the door for organizations, but once business leaders have freelancers working for them, they are increasingly seeing outcomes that they maybe didn't expect. So having more freelancers does, of course, contribute to organizational agility, right? You're able to scale up and down. You're able to be a little bit more efficient with your talent when you bring in freelancers in addition to full-time employees. But business leaders are also finding that by leveraging freelancers, they are seeing a higher quality of work overall. They are seeing greater innovation unlocked across their business. And this one was really cool and actually really surprising to me. They are seeing the well-being and engagement of their full-time employees actually improve. And this is partly because of more of a shared workload, right? In a world in which we're all doing more with less. And also because new ideas and new collaborations are formed that wouldn't have otherwise been possible. And I think there's this kind of old wives' tale about freelancers that they are somehow in conflict with full-time employees, that if you bring in freelancers, there's like a competition, a competitive nature to this. And we're finding actually that it's more of a complement, and that full-time employees largely benefit when companies are using freelancers in the right ways. So given all this, and given that the tide is turning and freelancers are starting to be viewed differently by business leaders, how can you position yourself in this new world of work? I encourage you to check out our latest in-demand skills research, where we really go deep on our platform in terms of what business leaders are seeking from freelancers in terms of skills, because it gives us an indication of where are the skill gaps that business leaders are really seeking to fill, and how can freelancers play a role. There's three main things we've learned for 2025. And the first is specialization, not generalization. So back when ChatGPT first came out, I think there was a mad dash to understand, what is this and how can organizations capitalize on this? And what was really popular and in demand at that time was a generalist skill set, where if you just broadly knew a lot about a topic like AI, that was something organizations really, really needed. What we're seeing more of now in 2025 is that specialization is the name of the game. So this is people who have really deep expertise or knowledge about specific topics and specific organizational challenges, and how they might apply something like AI to solving those challenges. So if you are someone who is great at prompt generation for generative AI tools in order to develop a marketing campaign, it's time to get that specific about the kind of value that you can bring. If you are somebody that's really great at interpreting AI output, when it comes to qualitative data coming from an annual engagement survey, it's time to get that specific, because that's what organizations are really seeking. Somebody that knows a lot about a topic, that has deep expertise in the topic, and of course that layer of AI continues to be very, very important. Developing and coaching others. This is something else we found this year that I think is really, really interesting, and I think it's worth discussing. The ability to coach and develop and train others is one of the fastest rising skills on our platform for the first time ever. So what this means is that companies are looking for people that can really teach those around them. And I think there's a couple of reasons that we see this happening. One, organizational learning and development is proving itself time and time again and across research projects to be too slow for fast-moving targets like AI. We see a lot of full-time employees feeling like they're not up to speed on AI, they're not getting the training they need, they're not developed, and that's partly because those traditional ways that we do learning and development, learning courses, things of that nature, they're just not keeping pace. And so because of that, I think organizations are really looking for outside expertise on how they're going to get people up to skill on complex topics like AI. The other thing that I think is going on is, in an increasingly AI and digital world, we just want human interaction. We want to learn from people who have been through it. We want to learn by doing. We want to learn from the best. And I think that's another reason that organizations really just are seeking people who know a lot about certain topics to help others think differently about those topics as well. So if you're somebody that's great at helping those around you think differently and great at training or teaching others, this is definitely your time to shine. If you are not great at either of the two things I just mentioned, please do not despair, because I think one of the most interesting and important findings that we had this year from our in-demand skills campaign was that there is a balance between upskilling, learning brand new things, and strategic positioning of the things that you already know. And so essentially what this is saying is that when we look at what skills are in demand on our platform, this actually can have a number of different definitions. So one of the definitions that's most obvious is a lot of business leaders are seeking this skill set. So that's shown kind of on the x-axis of this graphic here. But in-demand skills could also mean skill sets that have just this enormous growth trajectory, that are just hitting the scene and growing quickly. Maybe they'll be tomorrow's x-axis skills, but right now they are on the y-axis. These are skills that not every business leader is looking for, but it's growing. Or an in-demand skill can simply be, what are business leaders paying the most for? So that's indicated on this graph by the size of these circles. What is getting a premium? Because it's very valuable for organizations to have. And of course, an in-demand skill can be something that sits at the intersection of all three of these. Like a lot of the skill sets that you're seeing here on this graph are in fact needed by many business leaders. They're growing and they're getting paid a premium. All of these different ways are ways you can look at, what is the future opportunity in whatever I'm doing. So I think that freelancers get kind of hit over the head with this message all the time of reskilling, upskilling. You need to stay fresh. You always need to be learning something new. And I'm not going to say that that's not important. It certainly is. But I think just as important might be considering what you're really great at, what you want to be known for, and thinking of all the different ways you can reapply and reposition those skill sets in some of these new ways to solve emerging organizational challenges or fill emerging organizational roles. In a lot of cases, a lot of what you know just needs to be repackaged in ways that can convince organizational leaders that you are their next great asset for the future of work. So I'll show that slide again and just reiterate that positioning yourself in this new world of work means positioning yourself as a specialist with deep expertise in something specific. That is what organizations need. Positioning yourself as someone that can help develop and coach others, and strategic repositioning of what you already know to solve new organizational challenges. Because when you think about how costly and time intensive it is to learn something brand new, it's maybe just as worthwhile thinking about how you're positioning what you already know. And we're able to show that in the data. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best of luck with your careers. We'd really love for you guys to visit us at our research website and kind of take a look around and learn a little bit more about what we're learning from our platform and survey data in terms of where the future of work is headed, especially when it comes to freelancers and non-traditional workers. We'd love for you to engage with us, share some of your stories and ask us your questions and keep the conversation going. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gabby, for that really insightful presentation. I think you have put real data to a lot of the topics that we have been talking about and hearing about over the last 2 days in our sessions, and really understanding what employers value from the freelance workforce is really critical for all of us as we think about how to position, how to get new clients, where we want to invest our time. And the idea that we should specialize and have a really sharp story about what our value proposition is as freelancers is something we've heard over and over again in different sessions over the last few days. So it's exciting to see you put data to the things that people have been talking about. Thank you very much. And thank all of you for joining us for the last 2 days. As a final note, before we open our networking room and we can all head back over there and talk and interact with each other a bit more, I want to thank you again for joining the first ever Lettuce Solo Summit. I want to reiterate the offer that we've talked about a few times during this summit, that Lettuce is offering a month free plus a free 2024 tax return with the code SOLOVIP. And this offer ends on March 15th. And we hope that you'll stay connected with us and with this challenge at lettuce.co/challenge. Starting March 3rd, you'll all get an email about the solo challenge. And we'll have tools and templates that you can use to help grow your business in 2025. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again, Dr. Burlaku, for this incredible talk, and I'll see you all in the networking room.